Okay, so get this. Live action Voltron movie. It's actually happening, like for real.
Yeah, this is a big one, and we've got 2 new articles here about it, all about Amazon MGM Studios and, well, how they're going to try to pull this off.
Everyone's favorite giant robot universe.
Yeah.
5 lion robots form this like mega defender Voltron. So like what more could you want, right?
Well, it's interesting, right, because this whole thing really taps into that huge wave of 80s nostalgia that's everywhere in pop culture right now.
Totally. It's like Hollywood's found a time machine or something, bringing back every awesome thing from our childhoods.
Right, but this isn't just some, like, quick cash in. This Voltron project seems like it might be. Well, it's got some weight behind it.
Yeah.
And honestly, the casting, super interesting.
Yeah, for real. First up, Henry Cavill, Superman, in Voltron.
The man's everywhere.
So he's obviously huge in the DC universe, but then there's also that Amazon Warhammer series he's doing. So it's like 2 big, massive franchises and both on the same platform.
It's kind of brilliant when you think about it. Both of those, they tap into the same audience, right? The people who love fantasy, sci-fi, big, epic storytelling. Seems like Amazon's making a real play here, putting Cavill front and center for all their action-heavy, massive world stuff.
He's definitely strategic.
Totally. And for Amazon, it's smart because Cavill brings so much to the table. Name recognition, huge fan base, and he's proven himself in these roles.
Yeah, he brings a certain gravitas, don't you think?
Absolutely, and that assures audiences, it tells them, this isn't some cash grab riding the nostalgia train. This is legit.
Totally. But what really caught my eye, it's Daniel Quintoy.
Yes.
Him, I mean, Cavill's a huge name, obviously, but the casting of Quintoy, it's got everyone talking, And I'll be honest, I had to do a double take. Like, I'd never even heard of the guy.
Yeah.
And for a lead role in a film this big, that's like practically unheard of in Hollywood.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. So who is this mysterious leading man, right? And why is everyone making such a big deal about it? Well, what we know so far is that Quintoya, he comes from a pretty strong theater background. Apparently, he was Tom Holland's understudy in that West End production of Romeo and Juliet.
Hold on, wait. Tom Holland's understudy. Talk about good timing.
Right.
I mean, Holland's Spider-Man. The whole thing launched him into like a whole other stratosphere of fame. Could this be Quintoy's big break too?
It's definitely possible. Hollywood eats up those unknown actor makes it big stories, right? And this has all the makings of one.
And honestly, the theater background might actually be a good thing.
I think so, yeah.
Because it means he's got that experience, and the discipline to handle a major film production.
Especially one as technically demanding as Voltron is going to be. I mean, come on. Giant robots.
So, okay, we've got a seasoned pro in Cavill, a potential rising star in Quintoya. What about the captain of this whole giant robot ship? Tell me about the director. So we've got Cavill, we've got Quintoy, but what about the person who's actually going to be leading this whole thing, the director?
Oh, right. Well, the director for this kind of intergalactic adventure is Rawson Marshall Thurber. You might recognize the name from Red Notice.
Oh, yeah, with The Rock.
Exactly, yeah. That big action comedy.
Okay, so thinking about that one, big action set pieces, definitely witty banter.
A lot of humor, for sure.
A lot of humor. So, I mean, Voltron, even the original, it had some pretty serious moments in it. So, I don't know, what do you think? Does this mean we're getting a more, lighthearted take on Voltron? Or could Thurber, surprise us?
Well, I mean, that is kind of the million-dollar question, right? Because it's tricky.
Yeah.
Especially with something like Voltron. I mean, this is a property that people have, really strong feelings about.
It's true.
So you have to stay true to the original, obviously. But you also need to update it for a modern audience.
Yeah. Right.
And that's where I think Thurber's experience in kind of mixing those genres, could be really interesting. He's shown he can do those huge action sequences that everyone loves.
Yeah.
But he can also, weave in the humor, weave in the heart. And I don't know, think back to all those great 80s action adventure movies, right? They had everything.
Yeah.
Explosions, laser beams.
Total.
But they also had that heart, that humor.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like Ghostbusters or Back to the Future. Action-packed, but still so charming. So maybe that's the winning formula, right? Trying to recreate that feeling of pure entertainment.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something. I mean, all of these reboots and revivals that we're seeing, I think it's that desire for escapism.
Really?
Just wanting to be transported to a different world, even if it's just for a couple of hours.
Yeah. And I mean, what better escape is there than, piloting a giant robot lion through space? Okay, so we've got the director. We've got, well, at least 2 of our heroes. Any word on, anyone else in the cast? Because I have to know, who are they going to get to pilot the other lions?
Well, that's where the mystery really deepens.
Yeah.
Because they haven't said anything. Casting for the rest of the team, and especially the female lead, that's still very much under wraps. And this is just me speculating here, but I think they're taking their time for a reason.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so what are you thinking? Big names to round out the cast, or are we going to see some more relative unknowns like Quintoya get their chance?
You know, if we're going off of like recent trends for these big blockbuster films, probably a mix of both.
Okay.
So you'd have a couple of more established names, right? Give you that instant recognition.
Right.
But then also maybe a few fresh faces. You know, give new talent a chance. Because remember, casting, it's not just about filling roles. It's about building a whole world.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And an ensemble that needs to feel, I don't know, familiar, but also fresh at the same time.
It's true. It's like as much about chemistry on screen as it is about like star power.
For sure.
Okay, so speaking of building a world, have they actually said anything about the plot? Like, are we sticking with the classic Voltron storyline, or are they going to like completely switch it up on us?
Well, see, that's another one they've kept very quiet about. So all we know really is that it's based on, you know, the Voltron concept. 5 lion robots, they come together.
Right.
But I mean, the best thing about a reboot is that you have that potential for reinvention. So they could introduce totally new characters. They could take us to different parts of the Voltron universe, or maybe even like really dive deep into the mythology of the lions.
That would be so cool. Imagine if they went into like the origins of the lions, maybe even brought in some like, I don't know, fantasy or mythological elements.
Right. It's such a cool opportunity. They could really expand the world in ways that people aren't expecting.
Yeah.
And add those new layers to the story, but still stay true to the original.
Yeah.
To, you know, what people loved.
Exactly. This is why I love these deep dives. It's all the speculation, all the possibilities. Like, who knows what could happen? I don't know. It just feels like we're on the verge of like a Voltron renaissance, you know?
It really does.
Between this new movie and everyone freaking out about it, like, it's clear this franchise, it's got some serious staying power. But why Voltron, you know? Why do you think this story, these giant robots, why do they still resonate even after all this time?
Well, I mean, on the surface is obvious, right? You've got giant robots fighting in space, those iconic designs. I mean, it's just cool. And that appeals to everyone, kids and adults. But I think it goes deeper than that, you know? Because at its core, Voltron is about teamwork.
Yeah.
Overcoming your differences to achieve something together. And each pilot, they bring their own, like, unique skills to the table. Their own way of seeing things.
Yeah.
And it's only by working together that they can, you know, unlock Voltron's true potential. That's kind of a powerful message.
It is. And it's not just one hero saving the day, right? Yeah. It takes the whole team. I remember watching it as a kid, and like each lion had its own personality, its own strengths, its own flaws, just like the pilot.
Absolutely. And that whole dynamic, that message of unity and working together, I think that's probably even more relevant now than it was back then.
Totally.
I mean, the world can feel pretty divided sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Voltron, it reminds us that we can achieve more when we work together, when we combine our strengths.
Yeah.
That we can overcome anything.
And let's be real, who doesn't love a good underdog story? I mean, it's 5 pilots, each one of them with their own, you know, quirks and flaws, and they're the ones you have to step up and become the defenders of the universe. It's classic.
It's a classic for a reason. And Voltron does it so well. And I have a feeling this new film, it's going to capture that same feeling, that sense of wonder and adventure.
I hope so.
Like you're watching something truly epic unfold.
Totally. Okay, so to wrap things up, seems like Voltron, it's got a lot going for it, right? Yeah. Nostalgia, some serious modern filmmaking, and hey, maybe, just maybe, a fresh take on something that we already love. What are you most excited to see when this thing finally hits the big screen?
I think for me, it's how they translate the look of the original into live action. Because those transformations, those battles, like they have to capture the scale, that feeling of wonder.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm excited to see the cast, you know, see how they embody these iconic characters and make them their own.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, there you have it, everyone. Your deep dive into the world of Voltron, Hollywood casting, and giant robots. Until next time, stay curious.
For more entertainment news, subscribe to The Hollywood Reposter.